Boys and girls, Papa JB's been on the road all day today, so unfortunately, no teleprompter. I'm going full Monty with my words. I am vulnerable. I am naked before you with my sarcasm and everything off the top of my head. But today's first pitch is going to be focused on the culture of sports in general, and not a very specific thing, just a vast overview. Now, when we look at what's happened across the sports landscape, currently we're in the NBA playoffs. The NBA Finals Game 1 is playing just as we speak right now. And something that we noticed in the Western Conference Finals, a series that was supposed to be all about the action on the court, unfortunately became about the actions on the court with the Thunder and their ravenous display of acting and their reach for an Emmy. Or if you go to the NFL and how much we celebrate mediocrity, up to and mostly including how much people want to cheer for the tush push. I don't understand it. And in Major League Baseball, when we hit a home run, and they sit there and act like they've never done it before, like they haven't been here, and they have these celebrations, and it goes from the MLB to the minors, back all the way down to college, now down to high school. It's absolutely ludicrous and ridiculous and makes the sport look stupid. But there is one sport that is standing tall, one sport that is standing above the rest, and that is the NHL. Gary Bettman said last night before Game 1 of that awesome Stanley Cup Finals between the Canes and the Knights. We'll get to that later on in the episode. He said he believed the NHL was in a really good place. And I got to tell you, it's hard to disagree with him, especially after last night. Now, and I'm not talking about all the other antics and the product placement and all the different promotions that they do. I'm talking about the product on the ice. The product on the ice is as clean as a 12-round boxing match. There's blood everywhere. People can barely see. We still can't see where the puck is, but you know what? The games are absolutely fantastic. We've had nothing but an incredible slate of Stanley Cup playoffs so far, and we're able to put the cherry on top with a wonderful Game 1 last night, thanks to an absolute just thunderous opening by the Canes and a nail in the coffin by the Knights with less than 4 minutes left. Boys and girls, sports will reign no matter what happens. But in order for us to truly enjoy the laundry in which we like to cheer for, in the words of Jerry Seinfeld, the culture of each of these sports needs to be cleaned up, and we need to screw our heads on straight, and we need to begin as fans, however we can, begin demanding the best possible product that we could possibly imagine or ask for. This is Box Scores and Bourbon.
Look at the box scores.
Box Scores and Bourbon.
We check each other's box scores and scores online.
Baseball, box scores.
So football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey.
Box scores and bourbon.
Powered by Riverside FM.
Manny,
JB,
let's cheers in.
clink, clink, clink. Cheers,
Clink,
everyone.
clink. Salud.
Hump Day is here. That means we are back, JB.
Yes. We are going to hump our way through this
No, we're not.
like a 3-hump camel. You didn't let me finish, Manny. You're just sitting there. You're just going to defecate all over my words.
Nah, that's why pauses should not exist when you're talking. I need you to finish full statements before you get somebody in trouble.
I'm not going to give you any pre-notes, okay? This isn't an interview with Robert Downey Jr., okay?
That's funny.
I'm going to ask questions about his father, and he's going to like it.
That's right. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another Hump
Welcome
Day
back.
episode of Box Scores and Bourbon. We have a lot to talk about, JB. Your culture conversation, very on point with what's going on in the sports world as a whole.
Yeah.
We won't get too much into the culture of the NBA because I feel like we kick and beat a dead horse on that conversation. We've already talked about the player empowerment in the NBA for too many a times.
Mhm.
But you are correct. Everything, the antics that happen across all sports, I understand you want to celebrate, enjoy that you're playing a kid's game. Like no matter what sport you are, you're playing a kid's game, and you want to enjoy your time. But sometimes they like you said, you act like you've never been there. They should act like they've been there, done that, and it's just it's a little too much sometimes. A lot, especially if it's not a big situation, like a top of the first inning, top of the second inning, and you hit a home run. I'm like, okay, it's not. This isn't a walk-off home run. This is just another run that you have scored. So settle in, calm down, and get back on the field.
Saying hi to my kid. Hey, bud.
Oh, nice.
He's jumping on the trampoline outside. Yeah, and then of course, we got into the future of baseball now that both sides have given their initial financial proposals to each other, and just like I expected, and no one is surprised by, neither financial proposal looks anywhere near identical to the other one.
No.
And I said that it was gonna the union was gonna just be ridiculous with their numbers, just to toy with the league, and the league's like, all right, well, touche, here you go. Now we're gonna spend less money, my mic wasn't even on the whole time. Did you hear anything I said?
Yeah, you've been okay.
Oh, okay. So am I even on my mic right now? So
you might be coming on through a different speaker on your computer or something.
I must be.
You're
okay. I just looked down and it wasn't even on. But no, so it's just culture in general. There are many different areas in each of these sports, even including the NHL, where I would like it to be changed. But I'm not going to get a perfect outcome in every single sport that I enjoy watching.
Yeah.
But and then even in the NCAA college football, the Safe College Sports Act. I mean, that's being pushed through right now, and that happens to be that could be a net positive for the sport until the SEC comes down and says, you know what, we're annexing from the NCAA. They're going to go out to Fort Sumter, and they're just going to say, all right, we're blowing up a ship just for sentimental reasons because we're the South, and then we're going to start a new civil war, the college football civil war.
They'll just have their own championship. They're always representing the college football world anyway, so they can just have their own trophy at this point. It's fine. I don't have a problem with that. They can go do their own thing.
Yeah.
Maybe at that point, one of the big 5 leagues conferences can actually have a chance of being relevant in the sports world. But that's neither here nor there.
No one could be happier except for the Pac-10. They're probably the happiest. Oh, maybe there's a chance. Ooh. So you're saying there's a chance?
You're saying we can be relevant again? Interesting.
But Manny, we've had some. Let's start. I know I ended with Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yep.
We are going to end this episode talking about Game 1 to make this a really pretty, neatly wrapped gift to all of you out there. And we are going to begin the episode talking about 2 very, very post-draft high-profile trades that happened in the NFL. Manny,
yes,
you are one guy that was haunted by the antics and the on-the-field production of one of these guys. Care to give your take on him no longer being in your division?
I would love to give you my take on the the absence of AJ Brown in the NFC East now. Honestly, I don't. He. How do I word this? He wasn't necessarily the main driving factor or the main offensive weapon of the Eagles. So to me, I was almost a little bit indifferent about him being there or not. For better or for worse, the Eagles have figured out how to like diversify their offense and has not gone through AJ Brown for the last 2 years. And they're expecting to continue to diversify that offense and maybe develop more of their running game if you can develop it any more than just giving the ball to Saquon Barkley. But besides that, if there's any chance that this is going to be a net negative for the Eagles, I'm all about it. AJ Brown he's a really good player. Don't get me wrong, and he's still a player that you have to get on your schematics and make sure that you know where he's at all time when you guys are playing a game. Is when the Cowboys are playing the Eagles. But I don't know. I wasn't too afraid of what AJ Brown brought to the Eagles as a whole. But like I said, if he's gone and the Eagles actually end up suffering and he was actually a bigger part of that offense than what I'm saying that he was, I'll be happy about it. Now, the fact that he's going to the Patriots, that's like a whole different thing that we can dive into because I have mixed feelings about that. But I do think even being devil's advocate on the situation, the Eagles to me probably are going to have a addition by subtraction case with this AJ Brown situation, because if you look back throughout the last 2 seasons, there was always this off-season or like off the field controversy or all this drama and like these antics that were going on, and they were typically surrounding AJ Brown. So if they're going back to your monologue, if their culture was really struggling and it was ending up affecting the on-field performance, they might be actually better off not having him there to cause those problems for them. So I don't know. This might be actually a good thing for the Eagles and as a Cowboys fan, this might bite me in the rear end come September, October. But as of right now, I don't have too much of an issue with it. I don't know. It's like very weird situation to me.
Yeah, it's only a good thing for the Eagles if everything that's being said about Jalen Hurts is untrue. So if we go back to, just the whispers of the previous offseason and then the loud shouts from the rooftop this offseason about how difficult Jalen Hurts is, especially in that locker room, his unwillingness to adapt.
Yeah.
And so if for some reason the Eagles do fine without AJ Brown, I have a hard time believing they were only doing a tush push so they could have an excuse not to throw it to AJ Brown. That seems ridiculous.
Yeah,
but I think that's going to remain. But if you're an Eagle fan, if you're a football fan, this is going to be very telling in both ways. One, everything AJ was saying, if Jalen's doing the same stuff, all that stuff holds.
Yeah.
And then if AJ ends up being the loudmouth locker room guy in Foxborough, I know he's boys with Vrabel, but if he ends up becoming that loudmouth version of himself that he was in Philly, and just trying to create distractions, he's probably, he's arguably more talented than Stephon Diggs, but
Yeah.
But how much did you trade for that? Like, how much you just swapped one for the other? And both of these things could be true. Both of these things could exist at the same time, where it's AJ was still a loudmouth and he's going to do the same thing, and Jalen was still unable to adapt and was unwilling to do the things that he needed to do in order to really win.
Yeah.
And it could come out to be a wash for both sides. Now, my biggest concern here is, what's AJ Brown? What is his influence going to be on the young Drake May? How is Drake May going to be influenced by AJ Brown? And this is an opportunity for Drake May to put his stamp and say, "This is my football team. I just led this team to the Super Bowl without you here." And he's probably not going to say it that way. AJ Brown's taller than him, I think. But this is going to be something where I think Mike Vrabel hopefully still has that influence in AJ Brown. It can tell him, hey, this is Drake's team, but I need you to help him.
Yeah. I mean, that'll all come down to, and this is a question that you could maybe answer from your opinion. This will all come down to whether we believe that the validity that was coming out of the Philadelphia organization was accurate, that he was really toxic, and that the dynamics were not very good, and it was stemming from him not necessarily being the type of leader and stepping into the role that they wanted him to be and clashing with Jalen Hurts. If you believe that AJ Brown was that player that was causing issues, then this is something that you want to keep your eyes on with the Patriots. But if you think that the root of the issue was actually Jalen Hurts, then there's not going to be a reason to worry about him going to the Patriots, because we'll see that AJ Brown was never the problem. I will say maybe I'm just being a little bit letting a little bit of my Cowboys bias show, but I do think the Eagles are going to struggle a little bit finding their offense. I know I just said that they might just figure out a better way to develop their run game, and that will be their offense. But there's a certain aspect that players, maybe that fans forget about, and that is that a player, even when they're not getting the ball, just the simple fact that they're drawing defenders to that side of the field where they are, opens up so many opportunities for the other players that are on the court. No, the Eagles drafted a receiver in the first round this past draft, and that was like the telltale sign that they were really going to get rid of AJ Brown. But I think they're almost banking on that being an easy like plug and play with that receiver. And I don't necessarily think that that's going to be as easy of a player to replace automatically. There might be a step back that's taken with this wide receiver core that they have, because I'm not too convinced that Devontae Smith is actually a wide receiver one for that team, even though he was a big part of their offense regularly, and sometimes he was getting the ball more than AJ Brown. I'm just not convinced that when he is getting the attention of wide receiver one, when the defenders he has a safety and a corner on him at all times, that he's going to really be able to do what AJ Brown was bringing to that team. They might truly struggle to figure out their offense until who did they end up drafting? Was it Lemon as a wide receiver?
It was Mekhi Lemon.
Yeah, okay. So I do think that it might take a little bit for him to settle into the offense. So I would be curious to like check in on how the Philadelphia Eagles are doing, like week 9, week 10, and where they were, and see how they do the second half of the season once he actually gets into that offense and actually develops with that organization. Like I said, AJ Brown wasn't necessarily a big impact player, but some people forget that sometimes the players that aren't getting the ball are still making a huge impact on what the team can actually do on the field.
Yeah, it's going to be. I'm really interested. This is going to be my big thing. It's going to be a really telltale sign of if everything that we heard that came out of Philly this offseason that just screamed so loud, that was everything that was wrong with Jalen Hurts, is it going to be the same thing? Now, I think the real issue with Philly is that Nick Sirianni is still, for some reason, somehow, a head coach in the NFL. I get he led them to a Super Bowl, but man, this dude, he cannot. He has a hard time leading any kind of a productive offense if his offensive coordinator is not just like just absolutely incredible.
A head coach as far as qualifications, pretty much.
Yeah, so this is going to be a really telling and really something interesting that I'm excited to see. And just honestly, as a football guy, it's nice. It's not nice. It's going to be fun to watch AJ Brown do what AJ Brown's going to do in New England. See if Drake May is going to give him more volume than Jalen did, and then see how Jalen does, not having to worry about having to feel like he has to throw it to AJ.
Yeah.
Now the other big trade,
the one that came with less drama, and more intrigue,
was Myles Garrett going to the Rams. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was not on anybody's radar. I mean, there was some reports that the Rams during the draft were planning on doing something, but nobody thought what they were planning was a Myles Garrett trade. Like, that came out of the blue. And apparently the Browns are really good at hiding their plans, and the best way to hide your plans when it comes to wanting to trade a player is you give them $135 million guaranteed, and then you roll it into September, and then you keep them happy, and nobody finds out your secrets, because that's exactly what the Browns did. They gave him a $145 million contract last year. They said that was going to show that he was not going anywhere, and then they deferred like 50 or 75 million of that till September, and everyone was like, no, that's just a budgetary need that they're making roster moves to make sure that they can fit all this stuff. And out of the blue, everybody was waiting for the AJ Brown news, and it became a second fiddle to the Myles Garrett trade. That to me, I was not tracking that at all, and I was caught off guard completely by it, and not just caught off by the fact that it happened. The price that the Rams actually paid for Myles Garrett is I think they got a pretty dang good deal.
They did. They got a really good steal, and I'm wondering how much of that contract they're taking on really led to them. They're number one next year, a round 2 in 2028, and a round 3 in 2029. So this was an absolute, I think, an absolute steal for the Rams, because when you look at so they already gave Stafford his contract. They restructured it. They gave him his money. And the Rams have a really, really young, talented defense.
Yep.
They are growing, and they are learning together on the fly, right in the thick of it, in the trenches.
Who did they trade for?
Jared Verse. So they include no. Oh, you mean the corner? They got Trent McDuffie.
There we go.
So they traded, because they had 2 first-round picks. Because of the trade they made, they were able to use that higher end pick. And this makes the selection of Ty Simpson make so much sense. Because if you were going to figure out when you could draft your quarterback of the future, because Stafford, as good as he still is at the age that he's at, that you need to figure out how not to be Pittsburgh, and how you need to continue to bring in these old quarterbacks. I don't need the Rams bringing in Aaron Rodgers 3 years from now, because they have no picks to bring in someone who can replace Stafford. So them using that pick to bring in Ty Simpson was incredibly smart. And now you see why they did it. Because all throughout the draft and even post-draft, they said, hey, there's a chance that the Rams might be getting A.J. Brown. It seems like that's where all the smoke was.
Yep.
And then out of nowhere, they went quiet. They went stealth. They went Tom Cruise Last Samurai on everyone and said, slice and dice, dash here, gash there. We're getting Myles Garrett instead. And we're going to trade from our young defense, and we're going to space out the picks to bring in arguably the best defensive guy still in the NFL today. And oh, by the by, to add intrigue to all of this, Aaron Donald has now announced that he is considering coming out of retirement. If you believe those videos of him still lifting and looking in incredible shape, this defense would be absolutely impenetrable. And it's not even that Aaron Donald would have to be a starter. He could be a rotational guy, at least for the first half of the season, till he got his legs under him again. And then you start throwing him out there.
I'm not buying it for one bit. This man retired on the precipice with a Super Bowl ring in his pocket. Why would he have retired when he was still performing at such high level, and they want to come back 3 years later? Like he could have kept playing if he wanted to keep playing. It's not like he wasn't on a crappy Rams team after they won the Super Bowl.
This just in, Barry Sanders has said he wants to come back and help Detroit win a Super Bowl. Wow, Barry. Wow. Come show us what you got, bro.
I am not buying it for one bit. There's nothing.
Of course, Barry Sanders is so much older than Aaron Donald, but Aaron Donald still looks like he's got it, man. He still looks like he's got it.
He does still have it. He's still in good shape. But here's the thing. That body, if you're regularly taking a beating, your body gets used to taking a beating. You take a 2-3 year break, and then you're going to try jumping back into taking a beating. That's how you end up breaking something major and end up getting majorly hurt. I don't think that's happening at all. But what the last thing on this whole Myles Garrett for me is thinking back to the fact, but I'm still stuck on the price that they paid for him. Micah Parsons was traded for 2 first-round picks and a player from the Cowboys. Myles Garrett went for less than what Micah Parsons is worth. The defensive player of the year went for less than what Micah Parsons is worth, because that's the closest relevant position that you can compare him to a similar skill set. That just blows my mind. I don't know if they're undervaluing Myles Garrett, which is hard to say because he's the reigning defensive player of the year, or if they overvalued Micah Parsons. It's just a weird situation to me because the math doesn't make sense. I would love to see where the actual what are we missing on this trade? Because
remind me, did Micah get his money from Dallas and then get traded to Green Bay, or did Micah got his money from Green Bay, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's probably why. So depending on how much of the contract LA is taking on of Myles Garrett, because he already signed the contract,
right?
Depending on how much of that money they're taking on, it's like, okay. And look, Jared Verse he's no slouch.
No, he's not.
The Browns got a really good young defensive end in Jared Verse. And if you count the picks, that's not, that's really not much you can build on just in terms of, creativity and, trying to create a new car smell with the new players you bring in. But still, I honestly think the Browns got a pretty good deal in this. Because you can trade for all the picks you want, but to get a young guy who is already beginning to establish himself, and now you're saying, okay, we're going to plug you right where Myles was. Go ahead and do it. Let's see what you can do, because you don't know who you're going to get. You have no idea.
Yeah, true. And if you leave it up to the Browns, I don't think they care how many picks they get, because they end up ruining all their picks that they get anyways. So it probably doesn't matter to them. They go for quantity over quality when it comes to draft picks, and they just stock them up to burn them on players.
And besides, look, let's not discount this Browns defense, okay?
Myles Garrett was the Browns defense. That's the thing.
No. The Browns have drafted incredibly well the last couple of years on that defensive side of the football. That's why the Browns they quietly had one of the best defenses in the NFL. And it's real easy to forget that and to look over it because it's the Browns, because they had 7 quarterbacks and then they had 1. So and they have no idea who they're going to put at quarterback. Shedeur Sanders is not the answer at all. I don't care how many times he writes legendary on the football. It ain't him. So but this defense is absolutely phenomenal, and it's young too. And to put another young stud alongside, and not just a young stud, a guy who has experienced success. We can argue, yes, the Rams lost the NFC Championship game, but the Super Bowl was played when the Rams and Seahawks played each other. That was the real Super Bowl, okay? Yeah. Let's not pretend, okay? That was the best game of the playoffs, that one right there. And Jared Verse is bringing that with him. He is bringing that hunger. He's bringing that drive. He's going in there all Vin Diesel. He said, we're family, okay? And we're going to drive together even if it's off the freaking moon. That's what we're doing. And this is going to be...
Let me get this right. Are you saying it's they always talk about winners or losers of the trade. Are you saying this is a pretty even trade, that this is not necessarily the Rams or want the trade?
I'm saying the Browns did really well here. If you're going to trade a guy who's had 5 straight seasons of 14 or more sacks, and you're going to bring in a young guy that's kind of almost not in the mold of Myles Garrett, but has a penchant and the ability to get in a offensive backfield. And then you're going to bring in an additional 1 and an additional 2 and an additional 3. I know it's spaced out, but this trade was made, one, because Cleveland knows they're not on the precipice of anything. So why keep an aging player? Trade Myles Garrett now and then bring in a piece like Jared Verse and 3 picks. And then those 3 picks, hopefully, you'll be able to leverage because of all the picks that you lost trading in for Massage Man, and so and so because Massage Man still hasn't proven he can even play football still, they've lost all those picks because of it. They gave him all that money when they got him, and so now they have that cap relief, trading Garrett, bringing in another young defensive piece. I've always said, and every single person says this. Well, any smart sports guy says this. If you're going to win, you got to build the trenches. And Cleveland, like I said, has an incredibly young defense. They are incredibly talented, incredibly gifted, and adding a young guy at that, who has had a taste of success and was on the precipice of getting to the promised land in order for it to have a chance to win it all. Absolutely, you bring that guy in and you bring in the additional picks. I think absolutely in the near future, this is the Rams. They won this trade. Over time, I think we're going to see that this is a really smart trade by the Browns.
Fair enough. I will ask you this to wrap up this conversation. It is Super Bowl or bust for the Rams, right?
Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
And so they'll still run into the Seahawks in the playoffs. Do they have enough to beat the Seahawks now?
Yes.
Seahawks defense is not. They didn't lose any pieces on the defensive side of the ball.
They didn't, but the Rams improved at their worst spot, which was corner. They went and got Trent McDuffie, and then they just made. Look. As much as of a fan I am of Jared Verse, this is a guy. The guy they brought in is an absolute monster.
Yeah,
he's a monster, and he's gonna wreak havoc. Think about how many leads the Rams are going to have in the fourth quarter, and how many times the opposing quarterback's going to have to drop back, and Myles Garrett has a chance to eat. He didn't have that many chances in Cleveland, yet he still capitalized on it. Yeah. The Browns weren't in the lead in the fourth quarter. When does that ever happen?
No.
So this is an opportunity for this Rams defense. They just absolutely improved, and I know that the draft at the Rams fans are kind of befuddled and upset that they didn't go out and get a piece, an offensive weapon to add to Stafford's quiver, but in order to to bring in a guy who's going to make your defense that much stronger, that's going to be that much less work that Stafford is going to have to do to win a football game. Now you can rely on your defense.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, it is a Super Bowl bust for the Rams. Now, here's the thing: the Rams are the odds-on favorites to win the Super Bowl this year. This trade completely skyrocketed their odds. They are the preseason, even though the preseason hasn't started, the preseason favorites to win the Super Bowl. And I saw a stat, or I heard a stat somewhere, that since 2000, there's only been 4 teams that have started the season as Super Bowl favorites that actually won the Super Bowl. And that would be the likes of the Patriots, the Chiefs recently, and then I think the Broncos were sprinkled in there during like that super team that they built with Peyton Manning on his last year. So for them to be preseason favorites right now doesn't necessarily – it's not very optimistic because they're not like a dynasty kind of team, but it is a hard bar to meet when the bar is literally like the peak of the mountain. That is a lot of pressure. You'd have to hope that there's nothing goes wrong with the roster as a whole. We know Stafford deals with the back injuries. If they can stay healthy, I mean, the expectation should be that they are at least in the Super Bowl, but it is a high expectation for a team to live up to that expectation this early on that they have already. So I don't know. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, no, I've got 2 words for you why I'm not worried. Sean McVay.
Fair.
I'm not worried about the Rams. Sean McVay has proven over and over again ad nauseum how much of a great head coach he is. True. No matter what hole the Rams have found themselves in, even earlier in the season, the Rams are right in the thick of it at the very end. And if there's a team I don't want to face, Myles Garrett or not, I don't want to face the Sean McVay Rams team. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, you're right. Ooh, excuse me. Well, we'll move on from the trades. I think there was a couple other things. I think if you fell asleep on May 31st and woke up afternoon of July 1st, you think that you are waking up in 2011 because AJ Brown is now being head coached by Mike Vrabel, and Myles Garrett isn't a Brown, and OBJ is now with the Giants again, and Russell Wilson is a TV star all of a sudden. So the football world got turned upside down very quickly on June 1st, and we're here to experience all of it. I'm all about it. But let's move on to the basketball conversation that is happening before our eyes, which is the NBA Finals, where we have another close game between the Knicks and the Spurs. Did you watch Game 7 of the Spurs Thunder game?
Unfortunately, no. I was high up in the mountains of Santa Fe, New Mexico, camping with my family.
That's right.
I had no reception. The only thing I saw wasn't until the afternoon Sunday as I was entering back into a civilization, a text from you, which was a gif of Wimby sitting up, prostrate from the court, smiling. And I knew exactly what that meant.
Of course.
And I could not have been happier. I sat here in the first pitch and just I mentioned how much the Thunder were aiming for a primetime Emmy based off of their performance, quote unquote, on the court. And I can't understand. And look, it's the NBA. Coaches don't really have much of a say anymore. Long gone are the days of Pat Riley and Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich. But Mark Daigneault he's like, yeah, it's fine. Let them flop. It's cool. But I got to tell you, in that Game 5, he looked incredibly uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. He looked uncomfortable because that was right after De'Aaron Fox, who did nothing. I say this again, nothing to Chet Holmgren. And Chet Holmgren still gets a call after the review. After the review. And they pan in on Mark Daigneault's face, and he looks so uncomfortable. He's like, this is not the game. This is not the brand of basketball that I have instilled in these guys. I don't know where this is coming from. SGA had more flops than the fish coming off of a fishing rod. It was absolutely asinine and disgusting. And the mere fact that the Spurs were able to win this series after being down 3-2, mind you, they had to win 2 winner-take-all, and they won that last game within 10 points.
Yeah.
Shows you just how dominant the Spurs actually are and they can be.
Yeah, there was a lot of happy campers watching the NBA, the Western Conference Finals, saying the Spurs have saved basketball at least for another year because nobody wanted to go through another series of the Thunder flopping. And now you mentioned Fox with the Spurs and where he did nothing in Game 5. I wanted to talk about him slightly because he came back in Game 5, and throughout the first 4 games of that series, he was injured and they were resting him, and the Spurs were struggling a little bit. Game 5, they still ended up losing that game even though he came back from injury, but he was coming back into the rotation, which I wouldn't necessarily blame Fox because he really didn't do anything in that game. I think he scored like 5 points. But from there on, when I was watching these games, you could tell that the plugging in Fox back into that roster makes such a big difference in the way that they were playing as a whole. Kudos to the rookie Harper and I think he's a shooter. I don't remember what position he plays. Castle. Kudos to them. They held their own during the first part of that series, but the flow of the Spurs offense and their defense was just a little bit sluggish. throughout the first 4 games, and then Game 5, Fox was still getting integrated. But once Game 6 and Game 7 came around, and Fox was fully embedded into the rotation and the gameplay, you could really see the change in the type of game that the Spurs were playing.
Mhm.
He the ball going through him and Castle and Harper and obviously Wemby being able to just move around the court and let the Fox be the general on the court and let them play freely. You could see how much smoother that gameplay was,
Yeah.
and it showed thoroughly in Game 6 and especially in Game 7. They were, well, first off, the passion that they had on the court on that Game 7. I don't remember the last time that I actually saw that level of passion from a team in the recent playoffs. There was a lot of energy. They were playing with like a anger, a fire in their pits that like nobody was going to be able to put out. So once you saw that, the way that they were going for every rebound, doing all the right things in the game, you could have seen that they had all the energy and they were moving in the right direction to win that series. But I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that even though they were still fending themselves and had still managed to win Game 1 and still managed to win Game 4 or Game 3, which I'm forgetting which order they won those games. But even though they managed to do that, the plug-in of Fox back into the rotation made such a huge impact to them. And I truly believe that him coming back when he did was the key deciding factor for the Spurs being able to make it to the NBA Finals, which they're playing right now.
Yeah, Fox, you bring up a great point about Castle, Harper, Wemby being able to play their own game. Yeah. When you have a guy like Fox who's going to go out there with so much intensity, this guy plays completely unafraid. He does not care who he's guarding. He sees the ball and he gets ball.
Yeah.
That's it. And when you have a guy like that in your starting five who is absolutely unafraid to match up with anyone because his main purpose and goal is to just see ball, get ball. It absolutely changes the dynamic of your rotation because Harper and Wemby themselves are such prolific scorers that when you allow them the opportunity to do it, and then when you allow Wemby to be both offensive guy and defensive guy, when you have a guy like Fox who's able to go attack the ball after an offensive score or maybe a defensive rebound by the opponent, to be able to run back down the court to give Wemby an opportunity to get set again, it's an absolute game changer.
Yeah. Yep, agreed. Well, now moving on to the actual NBA Finals, something that I wanted to bring up very quickly is the fact that we have a matchup that is a representative of two teams that were built completely different. The Knicks, most of their starting roster, Brunson and Hart and Cat, they were all players that they traded for, and they're part of their starting rotation. And most of the starters from the Spurs, those were all homegrown draft picks that they actually have developed internally. So this is truly a clash of two different approaches to the final result. So this is almost a way to really see which way the league is actually going to be going based off of the results of the NBA Finals, because the Knicks fully vested into free agency and trading and bringing developed players, and the Spurs fully vested into drafting and developing their homegrown players. I'm curious to see if that shows itself with how this matchup is going to go, because they have taken completely different approaches, and yet they've both made it to the NBA Finals. This is the epitome of two different paths that end up becoming a success.
Yeah, when you look at the Spurs, like you said, this is mainly this is a primarily focused homegrown team, and then when you look at the Knicks, this is a team built on unselfish players, and the Knicks are built pretty much like the Miami Hurricanes of last year, where these players brought in during the NIL era and the transfer portal era, and they weren't necessarily the best players. They were the players that fit the most of Mario Cristobal's team and his ethos. And the same with Indiana, with Kurt Signetti and what he was aiming for. No one looked at Fernando Mendoza and said, that's the gem of the quarterback room for the transfer portal. I want to bring that guy in because he's number one. But Fernando Mendoza fit the ethos of what Kurt Signetti was trying to build in Indiana. And the same when it came to Carson Beck and other guys for Mario Cristobal. The Knicks are the same way. Jalen Brunson is an incredibly unselfish guy. He turned down more money, much, much more money on the open market just to stay in New York to help the Knicks see a championship through to the end.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's going to happen. They're making game one look really close, which is an incredible thing when you're talking about a finals where if you asked me before the season started, if there were two teams I wanted to see in the finals, this is one of them. This is a matchup I would have wanted to see, and thank goodness I get to see it because this is it's almost like going back to your coma thing. If you fell asleep in a coma in 1999 and you woke up in 2026, you're like, wow, the Spurs and Knicks have been this good forever. This is incredible. It's awesome to be able to see these two teams with such a storied history go at it with each other, and especially two squads that were built in completely different ways.
Yeah. No, this is almost poetic that the way that this has transpired. The 1999 NBA Finals was consisted of the Knicks and the Spurs, and then for the Knicks to finally make it back to the NBA Finals after that was the last time they made it to the finals. And who do they run into? Yes, the Spurs who kicked their butt in 1999. This is poetry at its finest in the sports world, and I'm curious to see if it would be. I know that the New York fan base would love to see the Knicks win. Like that would bring a level of happiness to New York that I haven't seen in my lifetime. But if it came down to the Spurs beating the Knicks again in the time that they finally make it back to the NBA Finals, this is almost we're about to see another dynasty of the Spurs right in front of us before the Knicks won another championship. It's a lot of pressure for the Knicks. It's a lot of pressure for the Spurs. The Spurs haven't made it back to the NBA Finals in 12 years. They had a dynastic run between 2000 and 2016, 2015. So this is a true reality check of where the league is actually going to be going. So I will ask you the question that everybody wants us to answer, I'm sure. Do you have a pick? Do you have a projection for how these finals are going to go?
I'm not much of a guy who goes for sentimentality. I would love to see a story where a guy like Jalen Brunson, who took the hard road and the unselfish road, win an NBA championship. But it's really hard for me to go against these Spurs. And I'm not saying it's going to be, 1999 all over again, with the Spurs winning a gentleman's sweep against the Knicks. But this is, and I don't want to be too quick to crown Wemby, but this is honestly one of those series where it's like, I think it could go either way. If the Spurs end up failing on the offensive boards at the rate they did against the Thunder, it's going to be really hard for them to pull through because the Knicks are so aggressive and they take every opportunity they can in order to make their opponents regret it. But because of who Wemby is and because of the matchup they just had against the Thunder, a 7-game onslaught where they had to claw their way against the team that was seemingly fighting for an extra role on Glee. That and the defending NBA champs. This is I'm leaning toward the Spurs in this series, I hope it's a great series,
Hmm.
but I will tell you this: if the Knicks win, it it's crazy me even saying this. If the Knicks win the NBA Finals, this it's nuts. I feel crazy saying it out loud. If the Knicks win the NBA Finals, which they are currently in,
It's not unlikely.
this is Jalen Brunson will have a statue erected of him outside of MSG the next day.
Yeah.
They probably have a statue already,
Yeah.
and if the Knicks lose, they'll donate it to the third world country along with all of the NBA Knicks championship T-shirts. But I'm telling you, Jalen Brunson will be considered one of the greatest Knicks of all time
Oh, for
if
sure.
they were to pull this off.
I agree. Even if they don't win, I think just the legacy that he's already building within the Knicks organization, I think once he's gone and retired or wherever the end of his story is with the Knicks, he probably already deserves a statue outside the Madison Square Garden. Here's what I'll say. I don't know which way to go lean on this series either. So I'm inclined to say, based off of how they're playing each other, they're matching up really well. And I did say early on that the Knicks probably matched up better against the Thunder than the Spurs because they didn't necessarily have somebody that could match up too well with Wemby. I know Cat's still there, but the skill set I don't think is close to comparable. I do want to lean towards this being a slugfest going to a game 7 between these two organizations. And I will add to this, just based off of what I'm seeing in game 1, which is still going on right now.
Which is an incredible game, by the way.
Jalen Brunson already, if the Knicks find a way to win this series, and I'm not saying they don't have a chance, but if the Knicks win this series, out of game 1, I can already tell you Jalen Brunson is going to be the MVP. Like, that's not like, oh my God, like that's a hot take to say right now. But just watching this game, the first quarter, it was a 2-point game, and Brunson got hurt. He's left the court, and the Spurs instantly went onto they took a 10, 12-point lead, like instantly took a 12-point lead. And he came back onto the court second quarter. Now it's been a back and forth game. The Knicks are leading by 6, the Knicks are leading by 3. Like they have not lost. They have not let it become a 10-plus point lead since Brunson came back onto the court. That just shows you how much of that offense goes through Brunson, or just how much of that the passion of what he brings to the court matters for the Knicks. And if they win the NBA Finals, it's obviously going to be because of Brunson. He brings so much to the court that if for some reason something happens to Brunson or Wemby, you could automatically cash the other team to win the championship. But with both teams staying healthy, each one of those players gives their team a really good chance to win these finals. It is going to be, to me, I think it should be going to a game 7 series. And if I had to pick a team, I'm going to go with the Spurs in game 7 to win the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And only because of just what we've seen thus far in the playoffs. So the Knicks, God bless them, being in the NBA Finals for the first time since Moses roamed the earth. We have to remember, and look, you can't blame a team for playing the cards before them, but they played a 7 seed, a 6 seed, and a 4 seed. They did not exactly have the toughest road to get here. The Spurs absolutely, even though they were one of the top teams in the Western Conference, they had to earn it.
Oh yeah,
they earned their spot in these finals. And if you were living under a rock and you didn't know what they had to face in the Western Conference Finals, well, then God bless you. Bless your heart, sweetheart, because this is a Spurs team that absolutely does not quit. And if you had any doubts as to the type of player that Wemby is, that series proved it. It proved what kind of a play. He is an alien. I said in the last episode, I'm calling him Egger, okay? Eggar. He is Egger, okay? He is the new Vincent D'Onofrio from the Men in Black franchise. He is Edgar. He is an alien, and he is disguising himself as a star NBA player, and he is doing what he well pleases in the playoffs right now.
He's not disguising it too well. He really
Regardless of
calls
how
himself-
game one shapes up, regardless,
Yeah.
Wemby is going to show up. He's going to show out, and if the Spurs lose this series, and to me that's a big if. If the Spurs lose this series, it will not be because Wemby did not show out.
True. But I will say this, on the other side, if the Spurs lose this series, it really does look like it will be because they lost it because of their own doing. Whenever they turn the ball over a lot, which even in the Western Conference Finals, they turned the ball over a lot, and those were the games they struggled on. And even in this game, I've been watching them missing some open shots. If they lose the series, it's because they truly lost the series on their own. They have everything in their they don't have weaknesses in their roster to say that they got outperformed. It will come down to the Spurs actually choking or folding under the pressure and not stepping up to the plate when it mattered the most, and that will be the defining factor for me if the Spurs lose the series. But moving on to your favorite sport, JB, the Stanley Cup Finals also happening. Game 1 happened yesterday. Game 2 is happening tomorrow. What did you see yesterday, or did you watch Game 1 yesterday?
So yeah, I caught a little bit of it. I have been on the go for the last 3 days, for the last 10 days.
Don't give me that. You saw where I was and where
I've been on the go. But Game 1, any complaint I had about the Avalanche not making the Stanley Cup Finals absolutely went away yesterday. The Hurricanes, they just kicked off the Stanley Cup Finals with a goal before you were done blinking at the drop of a puck. Yeah. 25 seconds in, the Canes were up 1-0, and I was like, "Whoa, what's happening here?" And then before you know it, it was 2-2, it was 3-3, it was 4-4, and then Colton Sissons with an incredible, my goodness, if there's one thing that bugs me the most in today's NHL is the amount of mishaps or misses when it comes to the assists and to the and just to the layup goal. This was not a layup goal. This was Sissons with a backhanded assist to Tomas Hertl, and he just knocks it in with a less than 4 minutes left in the third period in regulation. Vegas wins 5-4. That is how you open a finals series. That is what the finals are about. The Stanley Cup Finals opened with a bang. I'm not going to give...
You're not going to give a projection?
It's too early for me to do that. These are two great teams that are going head to head right now, and if I was going to make a pick, I would say that it's Carolina. I would say Carolina still wins the finals. I think they do. I think just like in the Eastern Conference Finals, they had that hiccup against Le Canadien, and they were able to rebound nicely. No problem. I'm not saying the Knights are going to make it that easy on the Hurricanes, but if I'm going to put my money on this, I'm going to say that it was the Hurricanes that will win this Stanley Cup Final.
And I'll ask you this, JB. When it comes to the Stanley Cup Finals, are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? I'm telling you, if you're looking for, I've been saying this till I'm blue in the face. There is no greater playoff spectacle this side of the World Series than the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, it is absolutely breathtaking. anything can happen. Anything can happen in the Stanley Cup Finals, and I think we're in for a real treat when it comes to these finals.
Anything can happen besides the fourth quarter. And on that note, JB, what were you drinking? What were you smoking? The Knicks have won game 1 of the NBA Finals, so they continue their streak of not losing a game in like 2 months, I think.
And hopefully this isn't the only game they win in the finals where it's a repeat of 1999. But I was drinking a local New Mexico favorite,
Nice.
Big Nose Kate.
Ooh.
Right here, I have the bottle
I've
here.
never seen that bottle before.
Yeah, she's got a big nose. And I was smoking an Olivia Serie V Milano. Yeah. It's
Nice.
very smooth, very nice.
You smoked the whole stick, which is hard for you to do. Either it burns quick or you actually really enjoyed it.
No, I had a really good draw on this one. And that's why I like Olivas. Olivas have a really good draw to them. It honestly, all cigars come down to the cut, and however you cut them. But this was a really nice draw. I've had it sitting in my home humidor for some time, so it's nice. It was ready to be lit. Manny, what were you drinking?
I finished off my giant bottle of whiskey, the giant bottle of 95 proof whiskey. So I need to go shopping once again. As with JB, my life has been quite on the move, so I have not even thought about buying whiskey, but I owe everybody a new bottle, so I need to make sure that I make that happen before next episode.
You do owe me a bottle. Yes,
I don't owe you a bottle. I owe the fans me experiencing a new bottle. That's what
fans, I need you to chime in. Does Manny owe JB a bottle? Chime in.
Or
comment, like, repost.
Where, JB? Where can they comment, like, and repost?
You can comment, like, repost, throw stones at the Box Scores and Bourbon podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, with additional opportunities to like, post, and repost on at BSB Sports 24 on Instagram, X, and TikTok.
The talk.
And until next time, folks, stay thirsty.
Cheers, everyone.
I don't have any cards.